Hello and welcome back to Tech Teens Talk. Today, I am joined with Lakshmi Suresh. To start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your role looks like?
Sure, Drishti. I started out as a software developer like years back when I started out my career after undergrad, and I've been in software industry for I mean since now, like different industries like banking and healthcare and different types of industries, but more on the technology side. So initially it was more development design, and as I progressed through, I got my MBA and I moved into more management roles, so technology management, and I also did like more business recently, last 5 years, more business side roles like business analyst, product owner, product manager. So different kinds of roles in various industries, and today I'm a principal product owner in Discover, which recently got acquired by Capital One.
For people who may not know, you mentioned you're on the product side of things. So, what does a principal product owner do for the company?
Yeah, a product owner owns the product, so they have to define the business requirements. They need to understand how their product can provide value to the customers, and then be able to establish those requirements with your teams and get the product built. So you would work hands on with the technical teams, build the product, take it to market, have like a go to market strategy, and then you work with the product manager who has the go to market strategy and take it to production. So in our case, it's more like a internal, like a product, like a settlement system that we are building. So we use it for money movement between merchants and issuers.
So, what made you get into more of the business side of things, like shifting from going software engineer to the product and business side?
I feel the cycle gets complete only when you know end to end, meaning like you do on the technology side, you would be doing the how, or you will be building the product. On the business side, you will say what the product needs to do. So I was always curious on why we are doing what we are doing. So starting out, you just follow directions and just build whatever is being asked for, and on the business side, it's more like knowing the end customer, knowing the business value that your product brings, understanding the what is on the product side. So I just wanted to be on, know the end to end, and thought that I wanted to be on the business side so that I understand this end to end life cycle of the product.
So, what does a typical day look like for you?
A typical day would be like starting out the day with having like a stand up or a meeting with your team, understanding what they did yesterday, what is prioritized for the day, and what if they have any blockers, obstacles in building the product, or any business questions they need answered. And any stakeholder meetings would follow, like any leadership meetings or stakeholder meetings, saying if there is any change in priorities or change in direction that they want the teams to do. So that those kind of calls would happen, and then it would be just continuously working with the team and making sure its execution is heading in the right direction, and always thinking ahead, and thinking ahead of not only the immediate execution but what is to follow is something that the product owner does on a day-to-day basis.
On a day-to-day basis, do you face any challenges?
Yes, so there could be challenges with the teams would encounter on a in an from an execution standpoint, and there would also be challenges with changing priorities, because every day the priorities are likely to change with the changing business environment, changing market, new compliance regulations. Since I'm in the banking industry, there are upcoming regulations all the time and compliance things we have to do. So there is always this shifting gears on priorities. So making sure that the teams are working on the right things and keeping on top of those is always a challenge. And then to get them to like do some work and have them shift gears, it's always a challenge because the teams are like ingrained into the work that you have already prioritized, and they get so attached to it. So to get that mindset shift is always a challenge. To get them on to the new thing that they have to be working on is need some explaining, and working hands on with the team and making sure that they really understand what is it that they need to focus on.
And what have you seen is the best way to face these challenges and like find solutions to these problems?
Be open to the changes. What I have always felt is the right thing, because if you're like you're attached to whatever you're doing, it'll be not easy to let it go. So you have that attachment, but always be ready, knowing that change is the only constant, right? If you have that mind shift, you will be ready to embrace the change and be ready to adapt and quickly pivot and take the new path.
So, you've worked at various large companies. What's something you've noticed that differs from each company?
Every company, there is always different set of processes in place to take up from uh, building a product to taking it to production, um, and the way the environments are maintained, the overhead stuff, the overhead processes that they have to for doing this execution itself is going to be different. So you just go and learn and adapt in every role that you get. What is the environment like? What are they prioritizing? For example, in banking, it is very regulation heavy, it is very compliance heavy. So they are going to be wanting you to have everything like closely documented, and every environment like be maintained like so that you're taking your product through the different environments, validating things. So there is a certain set of parameters that you do in a banking industry. On the other hand, in healthcare, which I was previously in, it's more dealing with patients' lives. So it's like critical to make sure that every like your product is absolutely like working 100% of the time, because it's going to be used during a patient procedure. So you don't want it to be down. You need it to be 100% up, because during a procedure, it's very critical to for the physician to get all the data, be able to see what's going on with the patient. So it's critical for the for that product to be product to be like 100% available. So every type of industry has its own set of challenges. So it's going to be like different. You just need to adapt to whatever the ask is, uh, whichever industry you are in.
So, from all the industries and all the different places you've worked, what has been one project that you especially enjoyed or have been proud of?
I would say like the one that, which I was with GE Healthcare, where I was like we were building a patient monitoring system where we were would be like real time monitoring what's happening with the patient, and help the physician. That system would help the physicians to diagnose problems, or real time look at what's happening with the patient as they are performing a cardiac procedure. So it was a very it was a procedure. It was a system that was used in a critical thing, because it's playing with patients' lives. So it is a challenging system that we had to build. At the same time, had a lot of like risks associated with it. Like I said, if things go down, it's a huge thing. So that's one thing that I was happy to be part of as I started my career, early stages of my career in the US.
So, being in like around technology, technology has been changing very fast. So, how have you kept up your skills up to date or noticed how others keep their skills up to date to adapt to these changes?
So, like I said, I'm in the product side. However, it is very important whether you're on the product side or you're on the technical side to keep up with whatever is the latest and greatest. And every company is usually adapting technology pretty quickly because they don't want to get left behind. So your work needs itself will force you to learn the latest and greatest, because uh, in the work environment, it's every requirement, like the need is changing. The need to build things in the latest technology is always there. So you kind of they give you the training opportunities, and then you looked at your peers and latest lot of latest skills are coming, like which will help improve performance or close compliance gaps or address vulnerabilities. There is always the latest thing that's being like talked about among your immediate peers, as well as through trainings in every company. So you just need to keep up and take those trainings and get certified, whether it's cloud practitioner certification or AI certification, or uh, reporting or Hadoop or big data. Every company wants to be on board with the latest technology. So you kind of be, if you don't adapt to it, you're going to get left behind pretty soon. So it's important that everyone keeps up with the latest and greatest and just keep going.
So you mentioned going back to get your MBA. So what pushed you to make this decision or change?
Like I said, I was like in the technology segment before I moved to business, but I always had the urge to see the full end to end cycle. And I felt like it was important for me to go get trained in a business environment, because getting the training is the first step, and then being hands on and using the training, and then being able to connect the dots real time is another second part. But without the formal training, I feel it's like it could be hard for you to understand and implement things differently. So whether it's certification or going to a proper business school to get that, I think I felt it was important for me to bridge knowledge gaps, because I didn't have everything being on the technology side. Like there were like finance and accounting, and there are so many other subjects that you would get exposure to when you are in a business school. I wanted that exposure before I took it hands on in an actual organization. So
Were
that was the reason for my drive to get an MBA.
were there any challenges you faced like moving from technical to the business product side?
The mindset shift would need to be there, because you're like laser focused. You're like in the when you're in the technology side, you're really like deep into the weeds, just doing, trying to build whatever is being asked of you. But from the business sense, you are like in a completely different perspective, because it's not like technical. Now you're like trying to understand what is the value equation, what is the business value, what is the customer value, what is the experience you're trying to improve. So you have to take a step up. You are going to look at it from a broader perspective. So I would say like the mindset shift is like the big shift. You would need to, like, instead of putting all your energy into building what is being asked out of you, you just challenge and say, is this the right thing we should be doing? When you're on the business side, you would be asking the question, does this make sense given what our competitors are doing? uh, Given what the market is asking, am I even building the right thing, is what you would be asking on the other side. So it's a complete mind shift from technology to business.
So have you used has your technology background been helpful in the business side?
Absolutely, because the more, if you understand the what, that's one part of it. But then you also need to be able to say, okay, does this make sense? Or if the technical team comes up with a challenge saying we can't implement this, or we are running into this blocker, we are unsure of, you will be able to connect the dots with the conversation if you have the technical background. So it definitely absolutely helps understanding the conversation, and also being able to offer possible solutions to the team, to say, did you try this, or did you try this, what about this option, have you thought about this? At least you are able to help the team step back and take a different perspective of implementation if you have the technical background.
So for teens who want to go into something similar, what do you think the most important skills are to develop?
So are you talking about like the technical teams?
Yeah.
The technical teams, yeah, development is very, very important, but they need to understand the business requirements before they get into development, is what I would say. For people who are on the technology side, just not be laser focused on what's given to you and start implementing it. Rather, you should take a step back and understand what is being asked out of you, and then maybe then it'll give you a different possibility for implementation.
And
Sometimes the person asking the for the requirement may be already giving you a solution, but if you take a step back and understand where the ask is coming from, or what is the value it is providing, maybe you can completely come with a different approach that is like not even the original solution that was proposed.
and just lastly to close off with, what do you think is the most helpful advice that you have received on your career journey thus far?
Be open to change. Change is the only constant, because all of us get very attached to whatever we are building. But as I went through the career, initially it was like as a developer, it's like a mind shift because you're laser focused on what you're doing now, and you're like constantly on the run to get whatever you are having handed, like whatever you're assigned finished. But if there is a change, you're like, oh my goodness, I built all this, I put all my effort in building this, and now there is this change coming. It's not easy for anyone to adapt to that change. But from what I've learned, the one thing you need to be open to is change. Change is the only constant with the markets and the environment we have today. Every organization constantly goes through change, change in priorities, change in requirements, change in business needs, change in customer experience, change in your competitors. So I would say change is the only thing that is real, and we just need to learn to embrace it as we go through our careers.
Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been very helpful. Um, and everyone who watched, I'm sure, will agree. So thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Drishti.